I thought buying her a house would make me family. Turns out, I just became the ATM they kept in the living room. I'm not angry anymore. Not like I was when I found out. Now I just feel empty. Like I spent 6 years building a life with someone who was never really there. You think you know a person. You think love is enough to bridge the gap, age, culture, language, all of it. But sometimes, the gap isn't what you think it is. Sometimes, it's intentional. And you're standing on one side, pouring everything you have into it, while she's on the other side, laughing with someone else. If our stories resonate with you, don't forget to like, comment, and tell us where you're watching from. This story was sent to us by a subscriber who asked to remain anonymous. He wanted other men to hear what he went through, so they don't make the same mistakes he did. I was sitting in Plaza on a Tuesday night in February, and I didn't want to be there. I mean, I did, but I also didn't. Does that make sense? I'd been in Bangkok for 3 days, staying at a cheap hotel off Sukhumvit, and every night I told myself I'd just walk around, get some pad thai, maybe have a beer, and go back to my room. But somehow I kept ending up in the same places. The places where the music is too loud and the girls smile at you like you're the only man in the room. I was 60 years old, freshly retired from 40 years of night shifts at a telecom company in Newark, divorced twice, no kids, no real friends left back home, just a pension, a one-bedroom apartment that smelled like mildew, and the gnawing feeling that I'd worked my whole life and had nothing to show for it except lower back pain and a 401k I was too scared to touch. So yeah, I went to Thailand, because that's what guys like me do when we don't know what else to do. I sat at a table near the back with a singha I wasn't really drinking. The girls were on stage dancing under strobe lights, and I felt old. Not just old, invisible, like I could have been a chair and nobody would have noticed. The music was some kind of Thai pop mixed with American hip-hop, and it was so loud I could feel it in my chest. I watched the other men, younger guys, older guys like me, all of us sitting there pretending we weren't lonely, pretending this was just fun, just a vacation, just a beer and some laughs. But I could see it in their eyes. The same emptiness I felt. Then she walked up. She wasn't like the others. She didn't grab my arm or sit on my lap or ask me to buy her a drink in that rehearsed way that makes you feel like a transaction. She just stood there, smiled, and said, "You look sad." I laughed. I don't even know why. Maybe because it was true. Maybe because nobody had said it out loud before. I said, "I'm not sad, just tired." She nodded like she understood, like she really got it. She said, "Can I sit?" I said, "Sure." She sat across from me, not next to me. That was different too. Most of the girls would slide right up against you. Hand on your thigh, breath on your neck. But she sat across from me like we were just two people having a conversation. Her name was Waraporn. She told me to call her One. She was 26, from Udon Thani, up in Isan. She had long black hair that fell past her shoulders, a small scar on her chin she said she got falling off a bike when she was a kid, and this way of looking at me that made me feel like I mattered, like I wasn't just another Farang with a wallet. We talked for an hour, maybe 2. I lost track of time. She didn't ask me for money. She didn't try to sell me anything. She asked where I was from, what I did, if I liked Thailand. I told her I didn't know yet. She laughed, a real laugh, not the fake giggly thing. She told me about her village, about her mom who was sick with diabetes, about how she sent money home every month to help her family. She said her dad used to be a farmer, but his back gave out, and now he just sits around drinking. She said her younger sister was still in school, and she wanted to make sure she finished. She said she wanted to open a little shop someday, sell clothes or snacks. Something small, something hers, something that wasn't this. I bought her a drink, then another. We talked about everything. About my ex-wives, about her childhood, about how hard it is to feel like you're doing the right thing when nothing ever seems to work out. When the night ended, I didn't ask her to come back to my hotel. I just asked if I could see her again. She smiled and said, "Yes, I would like that." She wrote her line ID on a napkin and handed it to me. I still have that napkin. It's in a box somewhere back in my apartment in Newark. I don't know why I kept it. Maybe because it was proof that something real started that night. Or maybe because I'm just a sentimental idiot. I came back the next week. And the week after that, I started planning my trips to Bangkok around seeing her. I'd book my flights, count down the days, and the moment I landed, I'd message her. We'd meet at the same bar, talk for hours, and then I'd walk her to the train station and say goodnight. I felt like a teenager. It was stupid. I knew it was stupid, but for the first time in decades, I felt something. She started texting me every day. Good morning messages, photos of her village, pictures of her mom's little wooden house with the chickens in the yard and her niece playing in the dirt. She sent me a video once of her cooking somtam, laughing at the camera, telling me she wished I was there to try it. She said, "I make it very spicy." "You will cry." I said, "I like spicy." She said, "No, you don't. Farang never like real spicy." I sent her money, just $200. She said her mom needed medicine for her blood sugar and they didn't have enough. She didn't ask, she just mentioned it in passing, like she was embarrassed. I told her I'd help. She cried on video call when I told her I'd sent it. She said, "No one ever helped me like this before. You are very good, man. I don't know how to say thank you." I told her it was nothing, but it wasn't nothing to me. It felt like I was doing something that mattered, something that made a difference in someone's life. My ex-wives never needed me like that. Lisa had her own job, Sandra had her own money. They didn't need me, they just tolerated me. But one, she needed me, and I needed to be needed. I started thinking maybe this was real. Maybe I'd found something the second time around that I never had in New Jersey. Maybe this was what people talked about when they said they found love later in life. We started talking every day. Video calls, voice messages, text messages at 3 a.m. her time because she knew I'd be awake. She told me about her childhood, about how her dad used to drink too much and hit her mom, about how she had to quit school at 14 to help the family. She said she started working in a restaurant and then a karaoke bar, and then eventually she ended up in Bangkok because that's where the money was. She said she didn't like dancing. She said it made her feel empty, but she didn't know what else to do. I told her about my divorces, about how I spent my whole life working nights and never really had a life. I told her about the time I missed my brother's wedding because I had to work a double shift. I told her about the time Sandra left me and I didn't even care because I felt more alone with her than I did by myself. Juan listened. She didn't judge. She just said, "You deserve to be happy, Terry. You work so hard. You deserve someone who loves you." And I believed her. I ignored the small things, the nights. She didn't reply for hours, the vague answers about where she was or who she was with. Once I asked her what she did that day, and she said she was with friends. I said, "What friends?" She said, "Just friends from work." I said, "What did you do?" She said, "We just talk." "Why you ask so many questions?" I backed off. I didn't want to be that guy. The jealous old man. The controlling Farang. So I let it go. I told myself she had her own life. I told myself I couldn't expect her to revolve around me. But late at night, when I couldn't sleep, I'd lie in bed and wonder. I'd wonder if she was telling me the truth. I'd wonder if I was just another customer. Another lonely guy sending money to a girl who said the right things. 6 months in, I asked her to quit dancing. We were sitting in a cafe in Udon Thani. I'd started renting a small condo there so I could stay longer, be closer to her. It was a studio on the 4th floor of a building with no elevator. It cost me $300 a month. It had a bed, a little kitchenette, and a bathroom with a squat toilet I never got used to. But it was mine, or at least I was paying for it, and it meant I could see one more. I could be part of her world. We were drinking iced coffee and she was telling me about some drama at the bar. Some girl got fired for stealing. Some girl got in a fight with a customer. I wasn't really listening. I was watching her talk, watching the way her hands moved, watching the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was nervous. And I thought, I don't want her doing this anymore. I don't want her in that place. I don't want other men looking at her the way I used to. I said, I don't want you working there anymore. She stopped mid-sentence. She said, "What?" I said, "I'll take care of you. You don't need to dance anymore." She looked down at her iced coffee. She said, "Terry, I cannot just leave. My family need me. They have no money. My sister's still in school. My mom need medicine every month. I cannot just stop." I reached across the table and took her hand. I said, "Then I'll help them too." She looked up at me. Her eyes were wet. She said, "How? How you can do this?" I said, "I'll buy you a house for your family. In your village. A real house. Concrete. With a bathroom. A kitchen. Something they can live in and be safe." She pulled her hand away and covered her mouth with both hands. She said, "You serious?" I said, "Yes." She started crying. Real tears. Not the fake kind. She said, "Nobody ever do something like this for me. Nobody ever care about my family. You are too good." I felt like a king. I felt like a man who finally did something right. I felt like I mattered. That week, I met with a lawyer in Udon Thani, a guy Juan recommended. His name was something I couldn't pronounce, so I just called him Mr. Tong. He spoke decent English, and he said he could handle the paperwork. He said because I wasn't Thai, the house would have to be in Juan's name. I said that was fine. I trusted her. He said it would cost about $25,000 to build a small house, 2 bedrooms, bathroom, kitchen, concrete walls, tile, roof. I said, "Let's do it." I wired the money from my bank in Newark, $25,000. It was a quarter of my retirement savings, but I didn't care. I was building something. I was building a future. It took 4 months to build. I flew back to Newark for 6 weeks in the middle of it and came back to check on the progress. One sent me photos every week. The foundation, the walls going up, the roof, the windows. Her family standing in front of it smiling. I felt proud. I felt like I was part of something bigger than myself. When it was finished, I flew in for the housewarming party. It was a Saturday in July and the whole village showed up. There were tables set up outside with food, sticky rice, grilled chicken, som tam, larb, beer, whiskey. Her mum hugged me and wouldn't let go. She kept saying something in Thai and crying. One translated. She said, "My mum say you are like son to her now. She say she will pray for you every day." Her dad shook my hand with both of his. He didn't say much, but I could see it in his eyes. Gratitude, respect, maybe even love. One kissed me in front of everyone. She said, "This is my boyfriend. He is the one who built this house for my family. He is very good man." People clapped. They raised their glasses. They thanked me in broken English. I felt like I finally belonged somewhere. I started staying in Thailand 3 months at a time. I'd fly back to Newark for a few weeks to handle some paperwork, see my brother, check my mail, and then get right back on a plane. My brother thought I was crazy. He said, "You're spending all your money on some girl you barely know." I said, "I know her." He said, "You think you do?" I didn't listen. I didn't want to hear it. Because for the first time in my life, I felt like I had a purpose. Juan and I played house. I'd wake up in the condo. She'd make me instant coffee with too much sugar, and we'd ride her little Honda Wave to the market. I paid for everything: vegetables, rice, fish sauce, laundry soap, her sister's school uniforms. I didn't mind. I liked it. I liked feeling needed. I liked being the one who could fix things. She'd cook for me. Simple stuff. Fried rice, grilled chicken, sticky rice with mango. We'd eat on the floor of the condo and watch Thai dramas I didn't understand, and she'd laugh at my terrible pronunciation when I tried to repeat words. She'd say, No, you say it wrong. It's moo, not moo. Moo is pig. Moo is hand. You just call the pig a hand." It felt real. It felt like love. Some nights we'd drive out to the village and sit with her family. Her mum would make somtam and her dad would pour me lao khao until I couldn't see straight. We'd sit under the house on plastic chairs and they'd talk in Thai, and I'd just nod and smile. One would translate the important parts. Her dad would tell stories about farming. Her mum would talk about the temple. Her sister would show me her homework. I felt at home. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was part of something. But I started noticing things. Small things. She was on her phone a lot, always texting, always laughing at something I wasn't part of. I'd ask her what was so funny, and she'd say, "Just my friend." I'd say, "What friend?" She'd say, "You don't know her." I'd let it go, but it bothered me. One time her cousin borrowed $500. Juan said he needed it for his motorcycle. It broke down and he needed a new engine. I said, okay. A month later, her uncle needed $800 for his truck. Something about the transmission. I said yes. Then her sister needed money for a school trip. Then her mum needed a new phone because hers broke. Then her dad needed money to pay back a loan. I said yes every time. I wanted to be generous. I wanted to be the guy who could fix things, but the requests kept coming. And I started to feel like I was just a bank. Late at night, when she thought I was asleep, I'd hear her on video calls, speaking fast in Thai, laughing in a way she never laughed with me, loud, free, uninhibited. When I asked her about it, she'd say, "Just girl talk, Terry. Don't worry." But I did worry. I just didn't say it. Because I didn't want to seem insecure. I didn't want to seem jealous. I didn't want to be the old Farang who couldn't trust his girlfriend. So I kept quiet. I kept sending money. I kept pretending everything was fine. One afternoon I came back early from town. I'd gone to get a haircut at a little shop near the market. The place was closed. Some holiday I didn't know about. So I just drove back to the village on my rented scooter. It was hot. The kind of heat that makes your shirt stick to your back. I parked outside the house and walked through the gate. Juan was outside by the fence, sitting on a plastic chair under the mango tree, talking on the phone. Her voice was soft, almost sweet. The tone she used when she wanted something. I heard a man's voice on the other end, deep, casual, familiar. She saw me and hung up immediately. She smiled, but her smile was wrong. Tight. Forced. I said, "Who was that?" She said, "My brother." I stopped walking. I said, "You don't have a brother." Her face went pale. She laughed, a nervous laugh. She said, my cousin. I always call him brother because we grow up together." I said, "What's his name?" She said, "Why you ask so many questions?" I said, "Because you just lied to me." She stood up. She said, "I didn't lie. You just don't understand. You don't know Thai culture." I didn't push it. I wanted to, but I didn't, because I didn't want to fight. A week later, an older woman from the village pulled me aside at the temple. It was a Sunday, and Juan had taken me to make merit. We'd given food to the monks and lit incense, and I'd sat there feeling out of place in my sandals and cargo shorts, while everyone else seemed to know exactly what they were doing. After the ceremony, this woman approached me. She was maybe in her 60s. Grey hair, kind eyes. She spoke a little English. She said, "You are the Farang who build the house?" I said yes. She said, "You are good man." I thanked her. She looked around like she was making sure no one was listening. Then she said, "You know about the other man?" My stomach dropped. I said, "What other man?" She looked at me like I was a child, like I was the only person who didn't know. She said, "One have man. Local man. Everyone know. I am sorry." She walked away before I could ask anything else. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to Juan and listened to her breathe, and I wondered if she was dreaming about him, whoever he was. I waited until she was deep asleep, until her breathing was slow and steady. Then I took her phone off the nightstand and went into the bathroom. I closed the door. I sat on the edge of the squat toilet and turned on the phone. My hands were shaking. I didn't even know what I was looking for. I opened her Line app. Messages in Thai I couldn't read, pages and pages of them. I scrolled through. I saw photos of her with a man I didn't recognize. He was Thai, younger than me, maybe in his 30s, muscular, tattoos on his arms. In one photo they were sitting on a motorbike together, her arms around his waist. In another photo, they were eating at a restaurant. In another, they were lying on a bed. My bed. The bed in the house I built. She was smiling. He was smiling. They looked happy. They looked like a couple. I felt sick. I wanted to throw up. I wanted to scream. But I just sat there staring at the phone. I scrolled more. I found videos. Short clips of them together. Laughing, kissing. One video was taken in the living room of the house. I recognized the walls, the furniture, the curtains I'd paid for. He was singing karaoke and she was laughing and dancing. Another video was them on a motorbike. She was sitting behind him, her hair blowing in the wind, and she was screaming with joy. I'd never seen her that happy. Not with me. I put the phone back. I went back to bed. I lay there staring at the ceiling. I didn't sleep. I just lay there until the sun came up. In the morning I showed her. I didn't plan to. I was going to just leave, pack my things and go, but when she woke up and smiled at me and said good morning like nothing was wrong, something inside me snapped. I said, "Who is he?" She said, "Who is who?" I showed her the phone. I showed her the photos. She started crying immediately. Before I even said anything, she said, "Terry, I can explain." I said, "Then explain." She said, "He is just my friend, old friend from before I meet you." I said, "Why is he in my house?" She said, "He just visit." It was one time. I said, "There are 10 photos, 5 videos. That's not one time." She said, "Okay, maybe more than one time, but it's not what you think." I said, "What is it then?" She said, "He is just friend. We don't have relationship." I swear. I said, "You're lying." She said, "I'm not lying. You don't trust me. You are jealous. You always jealous." I said, "You just gave me a reason to be." She stood up. She said, "If you don't trust me, then maybe you should go." I stared at her. I said, "Is that what you want?" She didn't answer. She just cried. I said, "What's his name?" She said, "Why?" I said, "What's his name?" She said, "Somkid." She said, "No." I said, "Does he think you're with him?" She didn't answer. That was answer enough. Things got tense after that. We didn't break up, but we didn't fix it either. We just existed in this weird space where we'd act normal during the day and ignore each other at night. She'd sleep with her back to me. I'd lie there staring at the ceiling, wondering why I was still there, why I didn't just leave. I think I was scared. Scared of going back to Newark and admitting I'd been a fool. Scared of being alone again. Scared of losing the only thing that made me feel alive. So I stayed. And I tried to fix it. I thought if I did something big, something generous, it would make her love me again. It would make her choose me. So I offered to expand the house. I said, "Let's add another bedroom. Let's renovate the kitchen. Make it nicer for your family." She perked up immediately. The sadness disappeared. She said, "Really? You can do that?" I said, "Of course." She smiled. The first real smile I'd seen in weeks. She said, "You are so good to me, Terry. I don't deserve you." It cost another $15,000. I pulled it from what was left of my retirement savings. I told myself it was an investment. In us. In our future. I told myself once the house was finished, once her family was taken care of, we could focus on us. We could get married. We could build a life together. The renovations took 2 months. One was sweet again. She'd kiss me, hold my hand, sleep next to me without her phone. Her family was grateful. Her mum cried again. Her dad thanked me again. One would say things like, "You are the best man I ever meet. I am so lucky." But in bed, she was somewhere else. Distracted, I'd touch her and she'd let me, but it felt mechanical. Like she was doing a job. I'd ask her if she was happy and she'd say yes. But she wouldn't look at me when she said it. I bought her a new phone, the latest iPhone. She said her old one was broken. I said okay. I paid off her father's debt to some local lender, $3,000. He'd borrowed money to buy a new water pump and couldn't pay it back. I said, "Don't worry about it. I've got it." I was hemorrhaging money, but I couldn't stop, because stopping felt like losing her, and I wasn't ready to lose her. The same woman approached me again, this time at the market. I was buying vegetables for dinner. Juan was at the condo doing laundry. The woman walked up to me. She didn't smile this time, she looked angry. She said, "I tell you before. Everyone in village know." I said, "I know." She said, "Then why you still here? Why you still give her money?" I didn't answer. She said, "Juan have husband. Not legal, but he is her man. They have baby together. He come when you not here. Everyone laugh at you." My chest tightened. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I said, "They have a baby?" She nodded. She said, "Little girl, 5 years old. You didn't know?" I shook my head. She said, "His name is Somkid. He live 2 village over. He drive tuk-tuk. You want? I can take you." I said no thank you, but the next day I couldn't stop thinking about it. A baby. They had a baby. That changed everything. That meant this wasn't just an ex-boyfriend. This wasn't just an old flame. This was a family. That night, I confronted Juan. I said, "Who's Somkid?" Her face went white. All the color drained out of it. She said, "Where you hear that name?" I said, "Is it true?" She said, "Is what true?" I said, "Do you have a kid with him?" She didn't answer. She just stood there, frozen. I said, "Juan, do you?" She nodded, barely. Just a tiny movement of her head. I said, "How old?" She whispered, 5. I did the math in my head. She'd been with me for 2 years. The kid was 5. That meant some kid was around before me, maybe during me. I said, "Are you still with him?" She said, "No." But she said it too fast, too defensive. I said, "Does he come here?" She said, "Sometimes." I said, "To my house. The house I built?" She started crying. She said, "He is the father of my baby. I cannot just stop him from seeing her." I said, "Where is she? Where's your daughter?" She said, "With my sister. In the other village." I said, "You never told me you had a kid," she said, "because I knew you would leave." I said, "You're right, but I didn't leave. Not yet. I wanted to. I should have. But I needed to know. I needed to see for myself." The next day, I hired a local guy who spoke English. His name was Lek. He worked at a guest house in town. I told him I needed information. I gave him Somkid's name. I told him what village he lived in. Lek said, "Why you want to know?" I said, "Just find him." He came back 2 hours later. He said, "I find him. He drive tuk-tuk in Ban Nong Bua. You want me to take you?" I said yes. We drove out there in Lek's old pickup truck. It was a 20-minute drive on a dirt road that made my teeth rattle. We pulled up to a roadside shop. Just a tin roof, some plastic tables, and a cooler full of beer. Lek pointed. He said, "That's him. I saw him, sitting at a table with 2 other guys, drinking Leo beer, smoking a cigarette. He was younger than me, maybe 34, muscular, tattoos up and down his arms. He looked like every other Thai guy I'd seen. Nothing special. Nothing threatening. Just a regular guy. I got out of the truck. Lek said, "You want me to come?" I said no. I walked over. My heart was pounding. I didn't even know what I was going to say. I didn't speak Thai. He didn't speak English, but I didn't care. I just needed to see his face. I walked up to the table. The other guys looked at me. I pulled out my phone. I showed him a photo of Juan. He smiled. Not mean, not angry, just casual, like he knew exactly who I was, like this was funny. He said something in Thai. The other guys laughed. He pulled out his own phone. He showed me pictures of him and Juan, pictures of their daughter, a little girl with Juan's eyes and his smile. She was beautiful. Pictures taken inside the house. My house, the living room, the kitchen, the bedroom. He showed me a video. Him and Juan and the little girl. They were at a temple. The girl was feeding the monks. Juan was smiling. Somkid had his arm around her. They looked like a family. He was laughing. Not at me. Not cruel. Just laughing. Like this was normal. Like I was just part of the game. He said something else in Thai. One of the other guys translated. He said, "He say thank you for the house." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I turned around. I walked back to the truck. Lex said, "You okay?" I said, "Drive." We drove back in silence. I didn't say a word. I just sat there staring out the window at the rice fields and the palm trees and the water buffalo, and I thought about how stupid I was, how blind, how desperate. When I got back to the village, Juan was outside watering the plants. She saw my face and she knew. She dropped the hose. Water spilled everywhere. She said, "Terry, wait." I said, "I met him." She started crying. Immediately, before I even said anything else. She said, "I was going to tell you." I said, "When?" She said, "I don't know. I was scared." I said, "Scared of what? Losing the money?" "I love you." I said, "You have a kid with him. You let him into my house, the house I bought for you. For your family." She said, "He is the father of my baby. I cannot just tell him to go away." I said, "Does he know about me?" She didn't answer. I said, "Does he?" She said, "Yes." I felt sick, like my insides were rotting. I said, "What does he think? Does he think you're with him or with me?" She said, "I don't know." I said, "How can you not know?" She said, "Because it's complicated. You don't understand. This is Thailand. This is not America. We do things different here." I said, "Don't give me that. You lied to me. You used me." She said, "I didn't use you. I care about you." I said, "You have a funny way of showing it." I sat down on the step. I felt like my legs were going to give out. I said, "How long?" She said, "What?" I said, "How long have you been with him?" "While you've been with me." She said, "It's not like that." I said, "Then what is it like?" She said, "He comes sometimes. When you're in America. He see his daughter. We talk. That's all." I said, "That's all?" She didn't answer. I said, "Did you sleep with him?" She said, "Terry, please." I said, "Did you?" She nodded. I stood up. I said, "I'm done." She grabbed my arm. She said, "Please don't go. I need you. My family need you." I pulled my arm away. I said, "That's all I ever was to you, wasn't it? Someone who could help. Someone who could pay." She said, "No, that's not true. I love you." I said, "You don't even know what that word means." I wanted to confront her parents. I needed someone to tell me the truth. I hired a translator, a college kid from Udon Thani who spoke perfect English. I paid him 1,000 baht to come to the village. We walked into her parents' house. One tried to stop me. She said, "Terry, don't do this. Please." I ignored her. I told her to stay outside. Her father was sitting on the floor watching TV. Her mother was in the kitchen. They looked up when I walked in. They knew. I could see it in their faces. The translator said something in Thai. They both looked down. Her mother started crying. I said, "Ask them if they knew about Somkid." The translator asked. Her mother nodded. She said something in Thai. The translator said, "She say yes. She say they needed help. They say you are good man." I said, "Did they know I didn't know?" He asked. Her father looked away. Her mother nodded again. The translator said, "Yes, they knew." I felt like the walls were closing in. I said, "Ask them why. Why didn't they tell me?" The translator asked. Her mother said something long in Thai. She was crying harder now. The translator said, "She say because they were scared you would leave. She say they needed the money. She say they sorry." Her father said something. The translator said, "He say Juan is good daughter. She take care of family. He say this is just how life is here." I stood up. I felt like I was going to be sick. I said, "Thank you for your honesty." I walked out. Juan was standing in the yard. She said, "Terry, please, let me explain." I said, "There's nothing to explain." She said, "I will leave him. I will marry you. For real this time. We can go to America. We can start over." I said, "The house is in your name. Keep it. I'm going home." She said, "Please don't leave me. I love you." I said, "No, you don't." She said, "I do. I swear." I said, "You love what I can give you. That's not the same thing." She started sobbing. She fell to her knees. She said, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I didn't look back. I walked to the gate. I got on my scooter. I drove to the condo. I packed my things. I didn't have much. Some clothes, my laptop, my passport. I called a taxi to take me to the airport. I flew out that night. I sat in my condo in Udon Thani for 3 days before I left. I didn't shower. I barely ate. I just replayed everything in my head. The first night I met her, the video calls, the tears, the gratitude, the house party, her family hugging me. I wondered how much of it was real. I wondered if any of it was, or if I was just a mark from the beginning, just another lonely Farang with money. I checked my bank account on my laptop. I'd spent over $50,000 in 2 years. The house, the renovations, her family's debts, her phone, her sister's school, her cousin's motorcycle, her uncle's truck, her father's loan, her mother's medicine. All of it. $50,000. I had maybe $30,000 left in savings. I was 66 years old. I was alone in a country where I didn't speak the language, and I had nothing. No house, no wife, no future. Just a broken heart and a receipt for a life I'd built for someone else. I flew back to Newark in April. The flight was 16 hours. I didn't sleep. I just sat there staring at the screen on the back of the seat in front of me. He took one look at me and said, "You look like hell." I said, "I feel like it." I stayed with him for a week. On the 3rd night, he asked, he said, "You want to talk about it?" I told him everything. The whole story. Start to finish. When I was done, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You're an idiot." I said, "I know." He said, "But you're my idiot." I laughed. It felt good to laugh. He said, "What are you going to do now?" I said, "I don't know. Find a job. Rebuild. Try to forget." He said, "You'll be okay." I said, "Yeah, maybe." I tried to move on. I really did. I went to a few expat bars in Jersey City, places where other guys who'd been to Thailand hung out. I met women, a Filipina nurse, a Vietnamese woman who worked at a nail salon. They were nice, pretty, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't trust it. Every compliment felt like a setup. Every smile felt like a transaction. I'd sit there at the bar and they'd be talking and I'd be thinking about Juan, about Somkid, about the house, about how stupid I was. I went on 2 dates and then I stopped. It was too hard. I couldn't do it. My second ex-wife called me when she heard. I don't know how she found out. Maybe my brother told someone, and it got around. She said, "You bought a hooker, a house." I said, "She wasn't a hooker." She said, "Terry." Yes, she was. I hung up. But she wasn't wrong. I thought about Juan all the time. I wondered if she was still with Somkid. I wondered if she missed me. I wondered if she ever thought about me at all, or if I was just another Farang who came and went. Just another story she told when she needed sympathy. I wondered if the new phone I bought her was in his hands now. If he was the one reading her messages. If he laughed at me. If they both did. Late at night, I'd lie in bed in my brother's guest room and I'd think about texting her. I'd pick up my phone. I'd open Line. I'd type out a message. Are you okay? Or, I miss you. Or I'm sorry. But I never sent them. I'd just delete them and put my phone down and stare at the ceiling until I fell asleep. A year went by. I got a job at a hardware store on Route 1. Part-time. Minimum wage. I helped people find screws and light bulbs and paint. It was humiliating. I'd worked 40 years in telecom. I'd managed teams. I'd been somebody. And now I was 67 years old working retail for $12 an hour. But I needed the money. I needed to rebuild my savings. I found a one-bedroom apartment in Newark. It smelled like old carpet and Chinese takeout. The walls were thin. I could hear my neighbors fighting every night. But it was mine. I paid $600 a month. I ate cereal for dinner most nights. Ramen. Frozen pizza. I watched the Yankees when they were on. I talked to my brother once a week. He'd ask how I was doing. I'd say fine. He'd say, you sure? I'd say yeah. I'm good. But I wasn't. Then one day, I got a message on Facebook. It was from Juan. I was sitting at home on a Saturday morning drinking coffee and watching TV, and my phone buzzed. I picked it up. I saw her name. My heart started pounding. I opened the message. It said, Hi Terry, I hope you are good. I miss you. Some kid leave me. He go with other woman. I make mistake. You are good man. I am sorry for everything. I think about you all the time. Can you come back to Thailand? I want to see you. I want to fix everything. My daughter ask. About you. She remember you. She say, where is the nice farang? Please write me back. I stared at the message for a long time. I read it 5 times. 10 times. I felt something I hadn't felt in a year. Hope. Maybe she meant it. Maybe she really did miss me. Maybe some kid leaving her made her realize what she had with me. Maybe she loved me after all. I thought about responding. I thought about booking a flight. I thought about giving her another chance. But then something told me to check her profile. I clicked on her name. Her profile picture had changed. She was smiling, standing in front of the house I built, the house I paid for, and there was a man next to her. Not some kid, someone else, older, white, grey hair, polo shirt, his arm around her waist. She was leaning into him, smiling that same smile she used to give me. I closed the app. I put my phone down. I didn't cry. I didn't feel angry. I just felt empty. I sat there on my couch staring at the TV, and I finally understood. I was never special. I was never the one. I was just next. She didn't love me. She didn't even really know me. I was just a wallet with a heartbeat. And when I was empty, she moved on. Just like she'd move on from the next guy. And the next. And the next. I deleted the message. I didn't respond. I didn't block her. I just deleted it and moved on. I'm back in Newark now. I still work at the hardware store. I still live in the same one-bedroom apartment that smells like old carpet. I still eat cereal for dinner most nights. I'm 68 now. I'm alone, but I'm not lonely anymore. There's a difference. I don't hate Juan. I really don't. I don't even hate myself. I just see it clearly now. I wanted to be a hero. I wanted to matter. I wanted to feel like my life meant something. And she needed money. We both got something out of it. Just not what I thought. I tell the story sometimes. To guys at the bar. To my brother. To new guys at work. And every time I do, I end the same way. I built her a house. Turns out I was just renting. I don't go back to Thailand. I don't plan to. Sometimes I see photos online. Isan sunsets, rice fields, smiling families. It looks beautiful. It probably is. Just not for me. I'm too old to start over. Too broke to try again. But I'm still here. And that's something. I think about the house sometimes. I wonder who's living in it now. I wonder if there's a third guy. A fourth. I wonder if Juan ever tells them about me. Probably not. I'm just a story she tells when she needs to. A generous farang who built her a house. And I guess that's all I ever was. I don't send money anymore. I don't answer messages. I don't hope. I just live, smaller, quieter. I wake up. I go to work. I come home. I watch TV. I go to bed. And I'm okay with that. Because hoping almost killed me. And I'm done dying for someone else's dream. I learned something, though. Something I'll carry with me until I die. Love isn't enough. Not when only one person is feeling it. Not when the other person is just acting. I gave her everything I had. My money, my time, my heart. And she took it all. Not because she was evil, just because she could. Because I let her. Because I was so desperate to feel something that I ignored every red flag, every lie, every warning sign. Sometimes late at night I'll be lying in bed and I'll think about that first night at Nana Plaza, when she walked up to me and said I looked sad. And I wonder if she saw it right away. The loneliness, the desperation, the need. I wonder if she knew from that very first moment that I was an easy mark, or if it developed over time. If she started out genuinely liking me and then somewhere along the way realized she could get more. I'll never know. And it doesn't really matter anymore. What's done is done. I can't get the money back. I can't get the time back. I can't get the piece of myself back that I gave away. All I can do is live with it. Live with the knowledge that I built someone else's life at the expense of my own. That I was so scared of being alone that I paid someone to pretend to love me. And that's on me. Not her. Me. I don't blame her anymore. I used to. For the first few months after I got back, I hated her. I'd lie awake at night thinking of all the things I should have said, all the things I should have done differently. But hate takes energy, and I don't have much left. So I let it go. She did what she had to do to survive. She grew up poor, she had a kid to feed, a family to support, and I showed up with money and a savior complex. Of course she took advantage of that. Anyone would have. I just wish she'd been honest. I wish she'd said from the beginning, I don't love you, but I need your help. I would have respected that more than the lies, more than the performance. But maybe she thought I wouldn't help if she was honest. Maybe she was right. Maybe I needed the fantasy as much as she needed the money. My brother says I should write a book. Tell my story. Warn other guys. I told him nobody would care. He said, you'd be surprised how many men have the same story. You're not special, Terry. You're just the only one willing to admit it. Maybe he's right. Maybe there are thousands of guys like me. Guys who went to Thailand or the Philippines or Cambodia, looking for something they couldn't find at home, looking for youth, for beauty, for someone who needed them. And maybe we all got exactly what we deserved. Not because we were bad people, just because we were foolish, because we let hope override common sense, because we wanted so badly to believe that we could buy love that we ignored the price. I see guys at the hardware store sometimes, older guys, divorced, alone. They come in to buy a single light bulb or a pack of batteries and I can see it in their eyes. That same emptiness I used to feel, that same desperate loneliness. And I want to tell them, I want to say, don't go to Southeast Asia looking for love. Don't think you can buy your way into someone's heart. Don't make the same mistake I did. But I don't. Because they wouldn't listen. Just like I wouldn't have listened if someone had told me. Sometimes people need to learn the hard way. Sometimes the pain is the only teacher that works. I don't regret going to Thailand. I know that sounds crazy. After everything, after losing $50,000 and 2 years of my life. But I don't. Because for a little while, I felt alive. For a little while, I mattered to someone. Even if it was a lie, even if it was an act, it felt real. And when you've spent your whole life feeling invisible, even fake attention feels like sunlight. I just wish I'd known when to walk away. I wish I'd seen the truth sooner. I wish I'd loved myself enough to know I deserved more than crumbs. But I didn't. And now I do. And maybe that's worth $50,000. Maybe that's the real lesson. Not that she was wrong, but that I was. For thinking I needed someone else to make me whole, for thinking I could trade money for love, for thinking I was less valuable than I actually am. I'm okay now. Really. I wake up every morning and I'm still here. Still breathing. Still standing. I'm not rich. I'm not young. I'm not in love. But I'm free. Free from the lies. Free from the performance. Free from the desperate need to be needed. And that's something. That's more than I had before. I don't know what the rest of my life looks like. Probably more of the same. Work, TV, sleep, repeat. But it's mine, and nobody's taking anything from me anymore. Nobody's using me. Nobody's lying to me. I'm just me, alone, broke, a little bit broken, but honest, and that's enough. I think about that house sometimes. My house, her house. I wonder if it's still standing. I wonder if the roof leaks when it rains. I wonder if the bathroom still works. I wonder if she tells the new guy the same stories she told me. About her sick mother, her struggling family, her dreams of a better life. I wonder if he believes her. I wonder if he's smarter than I was, or just as desperate. I wonder if he'll build her something too, or if the house I built will be enough for the next 5 guys. I wonder if my name ever comes up, if she ever says, an American named Terry built this house, or if I've been erased completely, just another ghost in a long line of ghosts. Just another Farang who came and went and left something behind. I don't talk to her anymore. She tried messaging me a few more times after that first one, always the same story. She's sorry. She misses me. She made a mistake. She wants me back. But I never responded. I learned my lesson. Once was enough. I'm not going back for round 2. I'm not sending more money. I'm not buying more lies. I'm done. And it feels good to be done. It feels good to finally let go. To stop hoping. To stop wondering. To stop wishing things had been different. They weren't different. They were exactly what they were. A transaction disguised as a relationship, and now it's over. And I'm still here. Alive. Breathing. Moving forward. One day at a time. One foot in front of the other. That's all I can do. That's all any of us can do. We survive. We learn. We move on. And we try not to make the same mistake twice. That's life. That's all it's ever been. And I'm finally okay with that.